Before we get into the Eightcap Foundation, so we've got to touch on this whistleblower event, of course. I'm sure you've done it to death a million times. There's been podcasts. We'll link all of the podcasts in the show notes as well, so people can go check it out.
Yeah, Angus did a super job on the podcast series. Great job.
Really detailed episodes around what happened, but I remember hearing about this when you were at Pepperstone. At the time, I was at IBISWorld, which is sort of like a data analytics company, but I remember Chris Gore telling me because I was still hanging out with those guys on and off during that period. But essentially, you were a whistleblower on probably one of the largest insider trading events in Aussie history. It was around $8 million in total. You were head of sales at Pepperstone at the time. You basically noticed some suspicious trading from this guy. And people go, oh, geez, how would he have picked up on that? I mean, as staff working on like the books and looking at the whole list of clients, you would just pay attention to people who were doing well and see if you could either mimic it. Could you learn stuff from how they were trading? Could you build a relationship with them? So you just be genuinely interested in what people were up to. So anyway, you found this guy, Lucas Kamei, started digging, realized he was trading on ABS data, put the dots together, see if he's got any mates in Canberra, work out that this Chris Hill guy existed. You called him and then basically realized he was working on sensitive data, and you tipped off ASIC. 3 months later, after them, I think I know what ASIC and AFP were like at that time. They were pretty heavy-handed on this industry, and they were looking pretty deeply into this sort of stuff. So I read at some point they had like maybe 80 officers working on it. But yeah, they basically realized that these guys were insider trading on Aussie dollar trades, essentially. And they found this scheme, I guess you could call it. And the thing that still blows my mind is that for all your troubles, they let you go at Pepperstone. And we'll get into that in a moment. So
probably not. I probably won't.
Probably not too deeply. But looking at that period, what was the biggest insight you pulled from that time that you put into action first thing at Eightcap? Was there anything around risk management or anything like that that you really learnt?
Not really, actually. Economic news is obviously a sensitive time. So what the issues you have with it is that everything's about load time in this industry because So what the issue is for most brokers is that sometimes if you've got an event that everyone wants to trade, you don't actually set your servers up to handle the load that you're about to have on a news event. So non-farm payrolls, interest rates releases, it gets everyone trading all at the same time. So there's always an issue with your price feed actually slowing down to what your actual price feed should be showing. And then there's people out there arbitraging this all the time and have been for 10 years. So they do it like a lot of people do it or have been doing it. They hack you. So they'll sign up multiple accounts and they'll try and slow your server down. The thing is if you're hedging it through, they will take the trade, but then they'll reverse it. So you're left holding the can. So you have to, if people are taking advantage of the software, so they're not taking advantage of the market, they're taking advantage of the software, is you have to protect your business from it because there is literally no way to mitigate it. You can't hedge it, you can't internalize it, you can't do anything with toxic news flow. So every broker around the world, whatever industry they're in, is trying to make sure their technology is up to scratch. So that's actually, sorry, that's the lesson I learned actually when I was.
Yeah, I was going to say
that is a lesson. Sorry, it wasn't a lesson so much. It was actually a competitive advantage. So the Pepperstone guys, when they started out, they were very frugal. They just didn't spend as much money at the time on certain things they could. So I probably realised I was going to leave Pepperstone and Eightcap, or what became Eightcap, was going to happen was around Christmas time. So we had about a dozen staff in Melbourne, a couple in China, about the same number in China, then a couple of guys in Dallas. And I remember and Joe Davenport asked me, you've worked different industries. What sort of bonus should we give to the guys? And I was like, oh, look, all the ops staff, all the sales staff obviously get remunerated by commissions and that side, so that's fine. I was like, oh, definitely like 10% bonus is standard. and everyone's doing a cracking job. So do 10%. And I think, it's a nice touch, get everyone a bottle of champagne for Christmas, something they can take home. So they've got something physical. Obviously, money just goes into your account. So you can't really, it's good to sort of come back to your wife or your girlfriend, your family and go, look at, this and they also gave me that. And then in the end, the guys, I think they paid a bonus of about somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 and got a bottle of Chandon for everyone. And that was off the back of making a $27 million profit. So that's when I knew I had to leave Pepstone. Like, wow. I was like, I can't believe they just did that. I've still got that bottle of Chandon. I've kept it the whole time.
Wow. That's definitely like an industry thing where you look and you go, fuck, why did they do that? That's just a thing that happens and you just wonder, like, why is that when a business grows that much? But
happens in so many businesses, people rock up in a Ferrari and then do the same thing. It's like, we don't have any money.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so funny. I was reading a book about that in agency land. He's like, this guy, and it's called The Business of Expertise. He's like, one of the worst things you can do is like lay off staff and still be driving to work in like a Ferrari or something like that. It's just not realistic, if that makes sense. Okay, so you probably won't want to comment too much on this component, but like I said, the thing that baffled me most, I remember because we knew each other then, I was just like, wow, Joel got let go. Now, obviously, you're not going to say why in particular, but the official line from Owen Kerr was global FX market volatility, yada, yada, yada. I don't think that the Swiss trade event, the CHF Euro event had happened then. I feel like that was like 2016.
Yeah, that was afterwards.
Yeah, so I was just thinking
the market was still booming.
Yeah, the market was booming. I mean, I don't believe Owen Kerr, so call me biased, but obviously you had intended to move on. It was in the back of your mind. Was the split amicable? Were you just like, okay, that's fine, like may as well?
Can't really comment, unfortunately. Yeah. Signed it. I might comment in the future when I have more money and I can afford to be sued.
Yeah.
So I will probably comment in a couple of years' time on what fully occurred and through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some advice on it recently. They're like,
don't do it. Well, look, I'll say as a commentator,
you're in big trouble. So
yeah, I'll say
big trouble, but it's just you're going to be in court. So
the optics on it weren't good. Is all I'll say.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty obvious. I started my own business and had an issue over a bonus, and a bonus probably would have helped with the business, and we settled the matter, before it was to court. So, I mean, you can read into it of what you think happened. It's probably all pretty obvious to anyone watching the podcast. So, which is, like it's probably for other, like looking at other people, like that's what probably yet again another lesson, not that I disclosing what happened there, is that, with our really good staff, we're sort of including them in the business in ownership and projects and supporting them on the ideas that they've had. So that's probably another, sort of indirect lesson that I learned over my career, not at Pepstone, at all the places that I worked at, is to support your staff.
It's not an abnormal thing to see in the industry. There's just certain stuff that...
It's definitely happened. I think, Joe was pushed out of Go Markets before he started Pepstone, and it's happened to other people. So, I think probably the only thing that I can't say too much, but I like the fact that with the podcast that people actually know what happened now. That, my involvement in it, which probably was, I didn't want to get any fame for it, but I was sort of frustrated that, I did a lot of work and then it was sort of, my name was never really mentioned. So you don't do it for some sort of 15 minutes of fame, but it was more like the fact that it was like, someone else did all the work that you did, and you didn't do anything. Whereas I think that was obviously handy with what Angus produced. You could see actually what occurred. It wasn't just PR coming out of AFP, ASIC, Pepstone, of little sound bites from the trial of this is exactly how it was all put together. And I think that's what made it so interesting, that it was the true story of what occurred, rather than 5 or 6 articles that came out that were written quickly. And that's what this whole podcast world sort of is. You want to know what actually occurred rather than reading 1,000 words on something. People really want in-depth analysis on topics and events, and surprised with the success of this. Like I wasn't big into like listening to podcasts. I only live about 10, 12 minutes by train to get home. So I don't really have that time to like that train time to really listen to them, which I'm probably doing more so now, and just realizing that you can listen to 10 minutes every day rather than finish something, which is, I always like finishing something. I hate pausing. So that's something I've just grown up and I just deal with now.
I can tell you're a bit OCD like I am, but you want to pick up the nuance in the conversation.